Welcome to your town. Stan Mickelson in front of the camera again. I have two guests today, Marissa Perez-Dormitzer, a district recycling coordinator, and Scott Giardi, our Dartmouth agent. Welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
I like to start out my program with guests or guest and get a little background. So if you don't mind, Marissa, I'd love to hear how you got involved in all of this, maybe your background, schooling, and things of that sort, just so the residents will get some kind of idea how this all happened for you personally.
Sure, thank you. So I went to Rutgers University and I majored in environmental engineering. And so I always knew that I was interested in trash. It just fascinated me figuring out the best ways to handle it because it's something that's so common. And so I was just interested in trying to improve all the systems around trash and recycling. And so I've been involved in that since college. So for a very long time, I've been in this position for 18 years as the recycling coordinator for the refuse district.
That's nice. And I'm sure during those 18 years, the recycling business has changed dramatically from its infancy.
It has changed dramatically. And we now have these really beautiful carts that have neatened up the whole recycling system in both New Bedford and Dartmouth. We used to have the little blue bins, you may recall, and so we would always get calls on windy days, things would blow out of them, and so they weren't the best system, but this is really going well. It gives residents a lot more room for recycling. Those little bins were 14-gallon bins, and these are 64, 65-gallon recycling carts, and residents receive 2 of them. So recycling has improved incredibly. When the town went to the SMART program or the orange bag program, trash was cut in half. So we're now sending 50% less trash to the Crayville Hill landfill. So we've made great strides.
Yeah, it's dramatic, and the machinery involved with this is even more, to me, astonishing how one truck, one driver can handle all of this throughout the town with ease, and no one, not at any point, ever get out of the truck.
Yeah, it's a very quick process.
It's really, really interesting. And Scott, how about a little background on how you got to this point in life?
Well, I have absolutely no background in this other than from when I started in June. I have always been working in a family business, and I was self-employed for many years. And I just was looking for a change and something to get a little bit more social and get in and work more with the town. I've been in the town since 2010. I grew up in Braintree and was never really involved with any town issues back then, so it's just been something that I've been wanting to do, and it gets me out, gets me knowing the town and learning about the recycling program, which is really impressive, and I've really enjoyed it. So I'm hoping that this is a beginning of something that will keep going.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will be. You're dedicated, and
yeah, I'm
both
enjoying
of you obviously
it.
are dedicated to this program, and
It's,
it'll work well.
It's worthwhile. I never really gave it a lot of thought. I've always recycled a little, and looking into this and having the experience and seeing what it does, and you know, how much is actually not going into the landfills anymore. It's something I've gotten really interested in, just doing the job.
It leads into a question I'm thinking about. Because of the recycling program in Dartmouth, and that's really all, it's not that I don't care about anywhere else, and I know we have a partner in New Bedford, but I wonder, percentage-wise, Bedford's much larger, but percentage-wise, are we recycling more than, say, a city of the size of New Bedford?
Percentage-wise, yes, I would say so. New Bedford has made incredible strides when they went to their cart program where they have a cart for trash and a cart for single stream recycling. Their trash went down 30% and recycling doubled. So they have made incredible strides too with their programs. Overall, I would estimate that in terms of the percentage of materials that are recycled, probably Dartmouth has a little bit of an edge on New Bedford. In Dartmouth, there is the motivation, you do have to pay for the bags, and that's the idea,
yes,
is that since you do have to pay for the bags, it motivates residents to recycle as much as possible.
That's true. So we went out and watched Marissa and Scott do their thing, and yeah, I'm sure you're going to really enjoy this part.
Hi there, today we're in a neighborhood in Dartmouth and we're taking a look at the recycling carts to see how residents are doing. We find often that there are things in there that don't belong in there, such as plastic bags, recyclables in bags, food waste, also tanglers as well, such as hoses, chains, various things like that that don't belong in the recycling. So we take a look at each recycling cart and then we leave a tag based on the results. So this here is our oops tag, and so you can see the various items that we're looking for on the oops tag. So I don't think I mentioned the food. Also no clothing, no shoes. I saw a shoe this morning. No big items. We don't want any propane tanks or wood, things like that. No tanglers, as you can see here. And then we have the no plastic bags, and we also don't want residents to bag their recyclables. When plastic bags end up in the recycling cart, when they get to the recycling facility, they wrap around the machines and they have to shut down the machines and send someone up there to cut off those plastic bags, which takes time away from the actual sorting of the recyclables. So that's the reason we don't want the plastic bags in there. But a great option is to recycle plastic bags at the grocery store. So at every grocery store locally, they take them, the plastic grocery bags, bread bags, Ziploc bags, dry cleaning bags, newspaper bags. All of those bags can go to the grocery store and they're recycled into plastic lumber or composite lumber that people use for decks. Now we're going to take a look at a recycling cart. As you can see, this is the gray lid cart, and so we're looking in the carts mainly on the weeks where we're setting out carts with bottles and cans. We find that the paper carts are pretty clean. So these ones are the ones that usually have items in there that don't belong. Now, if you take a look at this recycling cart, this looks really nice. So we have water bottles, those are great. Tuna fish cans, those can go in there. We have a large bleach bottle, and that's fine. So this recycling cart looks very good. So in this situation, we would leave a thank you tag, which I have here. So this is a thank you tag, and so we'll leave that on the recycling cart just to let the resident know that they've done a great job. So we're here at another recycling cart. This one looks really good. Looks like we have some juice bottles, more water bottles, pet food cans. So the pet food can, we do want to make sure we clean out the pet food cans. We don't want any food in the recycling cart, so no pizza slices and no cat food cans that aren't cleaned out. So those should all be cleaned out before they are placed in the recycling cart. So again, this one is looking good, so we are going to leave this cart with a thank you tag. This time we will add our smiley face to it. We just try to make this light and fun. Here's a perfect example of what doesn't belong in the recycling cart. So we have this metal chair. So for this container, we're looking for bottles, cans, jugs, and jars. And so you can see, while this is made out of metal, it's not a bottle, can, jug, or jar. It's not a container. And so something like this does not belong in the recycling cart. And so in this situation, we would leave an oops tag for the resident to let them know that it doesn't belong. All right, so here's another item. It's a light bulb. I'm not quite sure what kind of light bulb it is. I guess it's just a regular, oh no, it is a fluorescent lamp. And so fluorescent lamps as well do not belong in the recycling cart. When these break, they release mercury into the air. So we don't want them in here. As you know, the recyclables end up going in the recycling truck. And so this is very likely to break once it gets into the recycling truck, and it's going to release the mercury. So the best thing to do with these fluorescent lamps is to bring them to the transfer station on Russell's Mills Road, and they accept them there where they're properly recycled. I see one more item in here to mention. So here is a peanut butter jar, and you can see it has a fair amount of peanut butter still in the jar. And so for items that go in this recycling cart, they do need to be empty and fairly clean. So one suggestion would be to just use up all that peanut butter, to use the spatula and try to get all that peanut butter out. But if you can't do that, we do want them to be rinsed out before they're placed into the recycling cart. So we're gonna write out an oops tag. And so on our oops tag, we have an area for what we call big items or large items. So you can see here, and so it says no big items, no wood, furniture, metal, or styrofoam. So in this situation, we have a large metal item in that middle chair. So we're going to check that off to let the resident know that it doesn't belong. One of the main reasons that we're recycling and with all these recycling carts is because we want to make sure we only place items in the landfill that need to be there. So recyclable items that can be made into something new certainly don't need to be in the landfill. And so we're very fortunate to have the Crapo Hill landfill where both New Bedford and Dartmouth's trash is disposed of. And so we're working hard to extend the life of the landfill by educating residents about all different ways to recycle. So there's recycling in your recycling cart, your cans and bottles, and then there's also dropping off items at the recycling center. And so in Dartmouth, there's the transfer station on Russell's Mills Road where you can recycle even more items. So more than just the bottles, cans, paper, cardboard, you can recycle additional items. They take styrofoam blocks there, propane tanks, large plastic items can be recycled there. So a variety of items can be brought there. And then another way, even more options for recycling, is that plastic bags can be dropped off at local supermarkets. And so if you have your bread bags, your grocery bags, dry cleaning bags, Ziploc bags, those can all be recycled at the grocery store. So all of these are ways we can extend the life of the Crapo Hill landfill. So all of these items can be recycled or turned into new products, so they're not filling up our landfill, because it is a valuable resource. And once it does fill up, we're most likely going to be paying higher costs for disposing of trash. And then in addition, the disposal site is most likely going to be further away, and so that'll cost more just to transport the trash there. So we all need to get into the habit of recycling all of these items now, the bottles, cans, paper, cardboard, but then the other items as well, propane tanks, plastic bags at the grocery store, styrofoam blocks. So that really helps to extend the life of the landfill, and we appreciate all your efforts.
So currently, we have two main outreach efforts going on in Dartmouth, both including funding assistance from Mass Environmental Protection, DEP, and Scott, your position is called REC. So can we talk a little bit about what REC means and what you do?
Well, that's the Waste Recycling Enforcement Coordinator. And I basically go around in the mornings and I look in bins and see how people are doing. And if they're not doing well, we leave a note and we try to get them to do better. Weeks like this, which is a cardboard week, everybody tends to do really, really well. Almost everybody gets an A on their scorecard. The plastic weeks are a little bit harder. It seems like everybody's trying to do a good job. I've run into very few people who are trying to take advantage of the bins and throw their trash in there. It's only happens a couple times, but the biggest problem we're having is with the plastic bags and the wrap, and you know, which is getting tangled in the machinery. So,
Well, we'll explain later what this machinery really is.
Right.
And it isn't our machinery.
right, exactly.
Because we're basically we're a partner in all of this.
Right.
But we'll explain that later, how where this all goes.
Right.
And what they do with it.
So people are trying to do the best that they can, so even when they're throwing the wrong things in there, it's just because of lack of education.
Sure.
And they're not aware that they're supposed to be putting them in there, especially when a lot of these things say recyclable on the bag. They assume it just goes in the cart. So that's the biggest issue we have is getting the people educated, and it's working here and
So
there.
you want to show the residents, I'm sure some have already seen that, but to reassure everybody in town that's watching this and all the millions of people that are watching,
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
that you've probably seen the two of you, either together or separately,
Right.
going through your trash.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do the best for the program. So don't be annoyed. It's for the best. But you might want to just show some of the things that you leave.
Sure.
You know, with these recycle carts.
Yeah, for the most part, I'm leaving a do not bag tag, okay? So this is even when they get a good grade sometimes, they're still throwing bags in. So this is a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
And it's usually got a handwritten note on the back saying, good job, but please no
Great.
plastic bags. Because you
Great.
don't want to annoy people. If it's a little bit more messy or whatever, or there's other things in there, we'll give an oops tag, which, you know, we can circle the item on there which isn't supposed to be in there.
Yeah.
If we come back and that oops tag didn't work, then we may put out a notice. When we put out a notice, chances are we're going to put on there what the violation was, and we're going to turn the cart so it's not picked up. We're not giving out a lot of those.
That's good to hear.
And we haven't fined anybody, and we're hoping we don't have to, but there are a couple of things we're working on where we've got a couple people that may end up getting fined, but that we're trying to stay away from that because we don't want to dissuade people from recycling. We don't want to be too hard on them, and you know, and
Encouragement.
yeah, and just say, you know, I've had a couple people where they get upset and say, oh, forget it, I'm not going to recycle, it's too big of a hassle. But that's few and far between.
Yeah.
Most of the people that I talk to, you know, they'll come out of their house, you know, what are you doing in my rubbish? And, you know, they're a little
Sure.
annoyed at first.
Oh, sure.
But for the most part, 99% of the people, I start to talk to them, they really want to learn, and we usually both, you know, part with a smile on our face, and they've learned something.
great.
So it's good to have that contact.
Sure.
It makes a much bigger difference than just leaving a tag on here. You know, people look at it, but, you know,
Hands-on is
whatever.
really great.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you get to talk to the actual customer, they're willing to learn, and they want to know what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
So it works out well. I just wish I could meet more of the customers.
Yeah, they're
but,
probably at work
yeah,
or so.
yeah,
But,
people
or they're
work.
in the house and they don't want to come out.
Right.
But all in all, I think everyone is encouraged by this. I think the more and more that we educate the residents, like we're trying to do today, the do's and don'ts and of this program is imperative to make it really work.
Right.
And with, fortunately with people like the two of you and your staffs and that are involved in this, and the town, the DPW, and to encourage the residents to fully adhere to the rules and regulations, basically, of recycling. So I would imagine this is that IQ kit. Isn't that what we talked about before?
Yeah, that's
When we-
I'll let her.
Yeah.
Right, so there are two grants that the town has
Great.
received. The
Yeah.
first is the rec grant, and I will say that we have a lot of jokes, especially in New Bedford, about the rec being a wreck, because it is a funny title, of course. And then the other grant that we have is the IQ kit. So the town and the city were selected among 7 communities statewide for this IQ kit program. The IQ kit program provided these materials, so it
This is
paid
great.
for these materials. I'll add that there's a thank you tag as well, and so when residents are doing a good job, we want to let them know they're doing a good job.
That's terrific, yeah.
Yeah, so
Sure.
we have that, and then there was a postcard sent out. This was actually a postcard as well, which we turned into a tag, and so this information was sent out to every resident in town, just again to get the message across about what is okay and what is not okay to recycle. And so both of those grants have been really helpful in getting the word out about what's okay and what's not okay in terms of their recycling.
So I would imagine the two biggest issues are the plastic bags, without a doubt, in our type of recycling. And so some type of either hoses or rope or all those various things that we tie things down with.
Right.
That gets-
Anything that can
Make a mess out of the
wrap
machine.
around something.
Right.
Anything that can get caught.
And that's a good segue also into where is this going? Where is it going to get wrapped around? And what do they do with it? These is private industry now. This is now we went from the town to we're dealing with private industry, not in Dartmouth. So, and it's a huge business nationwide, and thankfully we're part of it. But I think the residents would love to hear about that part of it.
Sure. So the recyclables do go to a facility in Taunton currently. And I will mention before we dive into the facility that in terms of finances, it benefits the town to have the paper separate because the paper is the valuable part of the recyclables. So in terms of the financial arrangements with that private facility, it benefits the town to have this beautiful clean stream of paper
Right.
as opposed to the single stream, which would cost the town a lot more
Sure,
because
yeah.
it's just more processing. So at the facility, from what I've heard, I believe they can directly bale the paper. I know that Scott recently went on a tour there maybe a few months ago, but I had heard that they can directly bale, that they don't even have to sort through the paper, that it's that clean,
Right.
that they just bale it and send it off to market. So to companies who are going to make things out of it,
Sure.
such as tissue boxes or more paper or other kinds of things.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, so that is nice and clean, and then with the bottles and cans, they have to separate them. So they separate them with plastics with plastics, glass with glass, metal with metal. So they have machines and they have people who are able to pull all these things apart. So the problem at the recycling facility is that they have these different screens and different moving parts, and so those plastic bags, actually grab some samples just to show everyone.
Yes.
Can't leave my
We all-
office without samples.
We all do it.
Right. So these kinds of bags, they end up wrapping around those machines. They wrap around and they have to shut down the machines and send someone up there to cut off the bags and cut off these other items that get tangled in the machines. So they become problematic.
Nuisance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's the same thing as we'd mentioned, the tanglers, so items that tangle like hoses or chains
Right.
or cords. If you put something electronic, your old toaster in the recycling that does not belong in there, that cord can get wrapped around the machines, and so then they have to shut down everything. They can't process recyclables until they cut those items off.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why it's so important. Do you have anything more to add? I know Scott recently went to the facility.
No, I was just very impressed with the amount of stuff that was in there, and that was probably the real first impact I had of how important it is to be doing this, because you just look at a warehouse filled with piles and piles of squared up recyclables, and you're saying, wow, I mean, that's a lot that's coming in here every day that's not going into a landfill. So the amount that we're saving is tremendous.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it was a big facility, and I was really impressed with it. It wasn't the cleanest place on earth because you know, you do have a lot of this food products and everything else in a lot of this plastic bins, so there's a lot of stickiness
Smelly
and flies
too.
and all
Yes.
this other stuff. So that's what's good about us having the double stream, because immediately that all that paper gets contaminated when it goes in with all
Right.
that other
That's
stuff.
true.
So
Yeah.
this is clean. So I think it's worth the effort and the hassle to do the two streams.
And I think I cut this out of this wonderful article that the Standard Times did about this two-page article about what we do in Dartmouth and New Bedford, but mainly Dartmouth. And it was very informative to me. So, and hopefully a lot of people cut this out, or at least read through it. Like bottle caps. Everyone thinks that, you know, you just throw the bottle caps in the bottles, but they do encourage you to put the bottle caps back on, because those little caps,
They can get stuck.
they
in
can get
things.
stuck,
Right.
mess up the whole project. Got to shut the system down. Someone has to remove a little bottle cap. Can you imagine this little plastic?
Yeah, you got 12 people standing around waiting
Yes.
for, you know,
Yes,
to get back online.
and so that's kind of interesting. So you all have to remember to put the cap back if you can. And then you mentioned cans, like a tuna can or this can and that. They also encourage everyone to at least rinse them out.
Right.
Because of food substances that are left
Right.
in the can. You throw it in there and it hardens up, and it just makes things more difficult. So you really gotta, if you really want to really do this properly.
Right.
So a little rinse, not a lot of time. Little
No,
rinse.
as soon as you open it up, empty it into the pan,
Exactly,
you rinse
exactly.
it or give it
Rinse
a quick
and
rinse.
throw it in,
and
you
throw it in
recycle, and you're
right.
good for that.
The dogs don't get at it,
yep.
you know, in the house
Right.
or whatever, you know, it's a win-win.
And you don't have to remove the labels, you can leave the
Right.
labels on, so that's a good thing. So
Right.
little things like that I don't think most people really understand, and it's very simple to make this thing work
Right.
properly.
So really, icky food will earn you a yuck circle over here on your oops tag.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, we
yeah,
have
yeah.
a yuck one.
Soil containers, clothing, linens, heavy scrap metal. These are things that you can't put in our recycle bins. You just can't do it. So
Right. Got to be taken to the transfer.
tanglers like hoses and wires and chains and street lights or Christmas lights and things of all that. Just think that's gonna gum up the works.
Right.
Pardon me, but
And it can be, all that stuff can be recycled, it just has to be taken down to the transfer station on
Yes.
Russell's Mills Road.
yes.
And everybody who is in this program receives one free transfer station sticker.
Nice.
With their,
That's great. That's
Right.
terrific. So
Yeah.
we're all in this together, one happy family, trying to be as good to the recycle business as we possibly can. I noticed, it's a little late, the Crapo Hill landfill, Saturday, September 23rd, they had a hazardous waste day. And it's really unfortunate. It was this little tiny little blurb that I don't know if anybody ever saw that. I wonder if and when we do it again. No, I only got it. It was in the paper.
I understand,
Right.
right.
So
We
it-
try.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And
but I think
now was that a
DCTV
mailer?
runs a thing on there, you know, their little ads that they keep running on TV. I believe they advertise that also.
Yeah.
Before it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to get it out there, you know, to get everybody informed, because not everybody's reading papers anymore either, so.
Well, that's true.
And
Yeah.
not everybody's tuning into
Oh,
Channel
everyone's
18. Well,
everyone's
I mean,
tuning into this program. But
Great.
the older folks tend to do it more than the younger folks, I think.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I really thought, to be honest with you, I think the millennials are, without a doubt, they're really into this.
Right,
More so than their parents.
right.
It's just,
Yeah.
we didn't
no,
grow up in
the-
that type of,
You're right, because a lot of the younger people that I see at the houses are really into it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they seem to be more excited about
I
it.
believe so, I believe so,
Absolutely.
and that's nice, it's
Yeah.
good to see that, you know.
But then again, most of the smaller bins, they have smaller bins that you can also get for people who live alone, and usually they're elderly. And every time I walk up upon one of the smaller bins, I know it's going to be a beautiful bin. Just and it's usually an older folks. So I think the younger folks and the older folks are probably the two better areas where the recycle means more to them, I think. But that's just my opinion.
But I mean, I have 4 kids, so I just find we're really busy. I'd say we're the middle folks, probably, my
Right,
family,
right.
but we're just so busy, you know, taking
Right.
kids all everywhere and, you know,
Right.
trying to go to work and
Sure.
do
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
we
I
can
know,
fit
and
into a
sometimes-
day.
How do you do it?
Right,
Right,
right, it's
right.
a challenge.
It's a
Right.
management,
Yes.
good
Right.
management of time.
But
Right.
it's so easy. I mean, I always recycled to some point, and before I took this job, I was throwing plastic bags in the recycling bin. I thought it was all plastic, but over the last few months, you know, now I recycle everything. I rinse everything. I wish I could teach everybody to do it the way we do it, because you know, we're right in there. So, but yeah, I've changed a lot over the last couple of months on my recycling habits, and
It's a good thing.
yeah.
It's a good thing.
So I'm trying to figure out different ways to get everybody to do it, and we're getting there. I
So
think.
I think we should just mention again this opportunity to go to the transfer station for the Dartmouth residents. First of all, they get that free pass, and mention the items that they're looking for you to bring there.
Well, construction material, and they use a lot. Also, they produce their own mulch, so they take a lot of wood, and they want their brush also taken there. That has nothing to do with recycling, but I was impressed with what they do with, you know, the contractors bring down all these pieces of wood that they got left over from building houses and such. But for the regular residents, I mean, you can bring down all the stuff that we don't want in there, like the plastic bags and the wrap. They'll take, you know, styrofoam, the heavy metals which you're talking about, appliances, tires, and you know,
Things that we
I'm
toss,
missing.
even batteries probably.
right?
Yes.
You know,
Right.
so
Absolutely.
we don't want to gum up the
Different
works.
light bulbs too. You don't want the fluorescent light bulbs or the what are
The
new
LED,
bulbs?
the new LEDs are supposed to last for 20 years, but we have started to see them,
Yeah.
that they break or
Yeah,
become
yeah,
not usable.
yeah.
Right,
Right.
And they do
They
have a
mainly
little
break,
mercury
you know,
in them.
somebody hits them and they, you know.
sure.
Right.
uh,
So they don't want those in the recycling bins,
Right.
but they will take them at the
Right, at the transfer
transfer
station.
station.
Yeah, which is.
And
which is
most
good.
of the supermarkets have bins for the plastic bags and the wrap and everything else, and you can take them down there. So, you know, people say, well, they're recyclable, how come I can't just throw them in there? So, I mean, it's a different ballgame when you're taking those plastic bags down to the supermarket.
And they get recycled into composite lumber or
Oh,
plastic
what that
lumber. I bring my brick around with me when we do presentations to show people that the plastic bags, there is a great recycling option for them, just not in your recycling cart at home, but just bring them to the grocery store as long as they're clean and dry, and they get made
They make
into
decking
this-
out of
Yep, decking,
Right.
out of that
exactly.
that
Right.
product,
Yeah.
and it's a solid surface.
Yep.
So it's easy to install. It's relatively inexpensive today, as it was not many years ago. So
Right.
with
So it's
with
easy.
all the recycling involved, they've helped, you know, residents throughout the country have helped bring prices down on products that they manufacture from that.
Right.
And it's
Right.
all about saving money and saving the country and saving the, you know, the environment, more importantly.
Right. So the reason they're recyclable at the market is because everything that's going in that bin, like the paper, it's clean. So it's now, you know, that's all plastic bags and wrap and everything else. It doesn't have to go through that process with the conveyor belts and all that. And you don't have to worry about the tangling. So that's why, you know, it's kept separate.
So what do you really, Marissa, what do you really want to accomplish from this point on? What is your outlook to the future?
Sure, and so our primary goal is to work to extend the life of the landfill. So I know we mentioned it in the video as well, but we are very fortunate to have the landfill. It was the last landfill permitted in the state of Massachusetts, the last new landfill. So we're very fortunate to have it, and so obviously we don't want to fill it up with bottles, cans, paper, cardboard, or other things that can be recycled in other ways. So that's our number one goal, is to make sure there are no recyclables in the trash. And to be honest, since we've been going out in Dartmouth, I'm actually surprised to see paper bottles and cans in those orange trash bags, because I know there's the motivation residents have to pay for them, but I just encourage you to make sure to avoid, for residents to avoid having the recyclables in the trash, obviously, because we don't want to fill up the landfill. And the landfill, it's in everyone's interest, because once it does fill up, we're going to have to pay more money per ton. Right now, we have a very relatively low cost per ton for trash compared to other communities. And so once the landfill fills up and we have to find another disposal site, it's going to cost more, and most likely it's going to be further away. The landfill is at the corner of Freetown, New Bedford, and Dartmouth, so it's really close by.
Yes.
Right, so we don't really have much of a trucking cost. And so we just
It's quite a
really
facility.
Yes.
It really is. They do a great job.
Yeah.
It's
so-
beautiful.
Yeah.
I went over there for a tour, and I was like,
Yeah.
it was a pretty place.
It is.
You
It's
know?
not anything
It's not-
what anyone would imagine.
No,
this to be.
when I
It
grew
just
up
has
in
this
Braintree, we had a dump, and
yeah,
you get onto the dump, and
right.
it was piles
This
of
connotation of a landfill. Whoa,
Right.
God. You would do yourself justice to take a ride out there
Right.
someday.
No, each
And
day
especially-
they
Yep.
do one little section,
Yeah.
and by the end of the day, they've taken it and they've already put a layer over it, and
Yeah.
it's just
It's remarkable.
neat, and the
Yeah.
rest of it,
How well-
it's green,
how
and
well it works.
it's just it's a really good process they're using over there. From what I understand, from talking to one of the guys over there, their hope is that they can get another 20 years out of this landfill.
It's wonderful.
And like she was saying, Marissa was saying that, we are noticing a lot. I mean, you can't really see through these orange bags too well, but when things are pushed up against them, you can. And I know that, we're seeing a lot of bottles and different items that are in the bags that could be out of the bags. So
Right.
even though people are doing good, you might see a half a bin full of good stuff, but then you look at the bag and you see more stuff.
Well, some of the supermarkets, like Whole Foods, for example, and I know we don't have one here, but
Right.
they only have paper.
Right.
Or a lot of people just bring their own canvas bags and bag
Right.
their own groceries.
Right.
And I notice some people in the Stop and Shop and in local supermarkets, they bring their bags. So they're trying to do their part.
Right.
But some of the supermarkets like Whole Foods and Wegman and all these other, they only have recycled plastic.
Yeah, it'd be
excuse
nice
me,
if everybody
recycled paper bags.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's costly, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure. It adds to the bottom line. It adds to
Right.
it. But look, it's a small start.
Right.
We're doing our part. We're starting smaller, and we're getting more successful as we move forward with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I really can't thank you both enough for coming today and on my program.
Sure.
And,
Thank you.
And educating our residents again once more. And I think this will go well with the residents. And so, do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I would just encourage residents to recycle the items that we list, and to remember that these are commodities. And so these items, I brought a few items, so these items get made into new products. It's not like, well, instead of putting it in my trash, I put it in the recycling. These are commodities, that's how they're seen, and so they're then sold to manufacturers who make products out of these items. I grabbed, when I do presentations to kids, I show them my hat. This hat is made out of plastic bottles. So again, instead of having a plastic bottle sit in the landfill, then it can be made into something like this, like a hat or a fleece sweatshirt. So these items are made into new things, and I think that's the important key to remember. When you put them in your trash bag, your orange bag, they're going to the landfill. But when they go into the recycling carts, they're becoming new items, which is the great benefit of recycling, that you can make something new out of this bottle. Instead of being a bottle, it could now be a hat or a sweatshirt or whatever it'll be turned into. So I think that's key to remember. We do want to make sure residents remember what items go in the cart. So if you remember the black lid cart, and I say this because we're out on the streets and we do see people putting the wrong things in the wrong carts and out on the wrong day. So the black lid cart is for the paper and cardboard, and then the gray lid cart is for the bottles and cans. And I will also add that to help residents, as part of the REC grant, we had created this calendar magnet, which seems to be very helpful to residents. So we're getting kind of towards the end of the 2017 year, but we'll most likely make these again, and they would be available in Town
That's
Hall,
terrific.
at the DPW,
Yeah.
at various places. Because the one thing about the dual string program, it's great because it keeps everything clean, but it can be a little hard to remember which
Right,
week is
right.
what week if we're busy with kids and busy with our lives. So the calendar is a big help in remembering that.
That's true, yeah, that's great. That's terrific. Scott?
I think we've pretty much summed it up. Just be nice to me when you see me out there. And, you know,
Yes, please. I mean, why wouldn't you be nice to this
just trying to
man?
help you out.
He's a great guy. He has a great personality for
Yes,
this.
I can
Well,
see that.
because,
Really like that.
you know, people just think someone's picking through their trash. So remember the space. I'm not just picking
Yeah,
through your trash.
He's helpful.
Yes, definitely. And no bags on the recycling, right? We want to remind residents.
No bags.
We
No
do
bags,
see this occasionally.
yeah.
And we check carts. So if we get to a cart and it has a trash bag on it, we put it on the ground. So we
Right.
have to lift them. So we don't want any of the bags on top of the carts,
Right.
right?
And
And
I've
it-
seen that.
Right, and
Right.
if residents are concerned, if they don't want to put them on the ground because they're concerned animals might
Mm-hmm.
eat through them, they can place them in a barrel. You can use your own, whatever kind of trash barrel you have, and place
Right.
them in the barrel as
Right.
well.
Right.
General trash. Right,
Exactly.
right.
So it's a 50-50 shot. People, I've talked to people about the bags on top, and they say, well, you know, I want to keep it away from the animals or whatever, and they seem insistent they want to put it on
Yeah.
there. So I said, okay, I mean, we can't stop you, but if the recycle guy shows up before the trash guy, he's going to leave it. He's not going to get out of his truck and take it off of the bin. He's in the truck automatic, and that's the whole purpose of having the one driver with the automatic truck. So I tell him, it's a 50-50 shot. If you think the guy's going to, the trash guy's going to come first, that's up to you. But if he doesn't, you can't call up complaining if your recycle doesn't get picked up if you're leaving it on
Correct.
top. So,
Correct. So we all need to be partners in this.
right.
The residents, the recycle division, and if we can just have some little empathy for the recycle truck drivers and the whole program, and just a little more education.
Mhm.
If you think it shouldn't be recycled, then maybe it shouldn't be.
Right.
And that would lead into, if you have any questions,
Right.
don't hesitate to
Right.
call.
Right.
We are glad to help.
Right.
If you have some item in your home and you're not sure whether it can be recycled, you can call, I'll give my phone number, 508-979-1493.
Once more, please.
508-979-1493. And so that is for myself, and we have two other staff in the office who can help you with any kinds of questions about are the different events, Hazardous Waste Day. We haven't set the date for those different
Great.
events, but if you have questions going into the winter, when we do set those dates, feel free to call. If you have a whole bunch of hazardous items that you're not sure what to do with, please give us a call, and we're here to
And
help.
they'll be posted on the town webpage
Yes.
and on DCTV, and I would imagine DPW website also. So there'd be
Agreed.
3 websites that all this would be posted.
We do a Facebook page also.
And we do
Oh,
have a
right,
Facebook page.
So let's talk about that.
Yes, so it's Dartmouth Recycling, so you can look us up under Dartmouth Recycling, and that's another way to reach residents, because we want to reach them where they are, obviously.
yes.
So there we update information when there's a holiday delay, or when there's new information. We posted the information about plastic bags. So whenever we have new information to share with residents, we post
That's
that
great.
there. Right,
That's
and we
great.
encourage conversation and discussion.
Social media works.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sure
Yes.
does.
And it's a great place
Yeah.
for them to complain, too.
To have a healthy conversation.
Well, thank you both. I truly enjoyed this short time. I thought we could have a little even more time, but I think this will work out well. The residents will get a little more education, and again, please take advantage of the Facebook page, telephone numbers. If you have questions, again, if you have any doubts, it's probably not a recyclable item.
Right.
So, thank you again.
Thank
So
you.
that'll be the end of one more program of Your Town, and Stanley Mickelson is signing out, and we'll see you again soon.